Do you hate using multiple weapons? Do you find yourself saying, man, I love submachine guns, but I really wish they had higher DPS? Do you hate using multiple weapons? Do you mind never getting onto a Sparrow again in your life? Do you hate using multiple weapons? If you answered yes to all of those, consider buying Tarrabah. Tarrabah will solve all of your ad and major killing problems. Just reload, hold down fire, and watch as everything short of an Ultra falls before you. Drag, Tarrabah. Barrier Champion, Tarrabah. Atrax, maybe don't use Tarrabah for that one. For the low price of an exotic cipher, 3 easy payments of 50,000 glimmer, 2 payments of 120 spoils of conquest, and 1 payment of 2 ascendant shards, you too can buy Tarrabah from your local exotic archive and experience the wonder for yourself. Side effects may include losing your perk when switching weapons, losing your perk when getting on a Sparrow, running out of ammo, and a lack of exotic heavy. What a terrible ad. More like, terrible. Heh. I'm gonna buy it. Oh, come back, it's still on. Hey everyone, I'm Scooby Foo, and let's talk about Tarrabah. Tarrabah. Released back in Season of Opulence in Year 2 as the raid exotic for the now vaulted Crown of Sorrows raid, this poor SMG never really had a time to shine thanks to a certain spider-themed pinnacle weapon being very, what's the word? Extremely ridiculously overpowered at the time. If you know, you know. Unfortunately, because of that and a certain quirk with the weapon's exotic perk, the gun never really took off and has been all but forgotten since then. Let's try to change that. Starting off with the gun's perk, Ravenous Beast charges up upon taking or receiving damage. When fully charged, hold your reload key to overcharge the weapon for 8 seconds, providing double damage to headshots, raising your body shot damage to be basically equal to headshot damage, raising the gun's RPM from 720 to 900, and buffing the reload speed of the gun to be equal to, if not better than, standing in a Lunafaction's Rift. And the secondary perk allows you to extend the timer by dealing damage, or add to the timer by killing adds. You can go up to 10 seconds if firing at one target, and I've gotten it up to 16.5 seconds from rapidly killing adds, but I'm sure it could go higher if you had enough enemies to sustain it. Unrelated to the perk, but I don't know when else to talk about it, for whatever unknown reason, if you have anti-barrier rounds on Tarrabah, or any other aggressive SMG for that matter, your shots will stagger pretty much anything that can be, and will stagger lock red bars and smaller orange bars. It's weird, might be a bug, and only works if you have anti-barrier equipped, but hey, it's really good for ad clear, so it's worth mentioning. So that all sounds pretty good, right? Well, unfortunately, the quirk with this gun is that if you switch off of Tarrabah in any way, shape, or form, you'll lose all of your charge for Ravenous Beast. Switch to a sniper? Lose it. Get in your Sparrow? Lose it. Cast your super? Lose it. Pull out your Ghost? Lose it. Actually, that one's not intended. As of Season 13, you'll be able to pull your Ghost out without losing Ravenous Beast. Do basically anything except shoot Tarrabah, punch stuff, use your class ability, or throw your grenade? Lose it. Pretty much the only thing you can do is open your inventory, since that technically doesn't change what you're holding. Well, that sucks. Is it even worth getting this thing? I'm glad you asked, viewer. Whether or not you'll want to use Tarrabah entirely depends on how you feel about one thing: not switching your weapons if you have Ravenous Beast charged. If you can handle that, you can handle Tarrabah. Well, okay, this commercial's kinda useless because I don't know what to use with it. Good point, viewer. Let me show you what to use. How does it know what I'm saying? Since you're a Warlock, valued viewer, I'll start with that. Since I've got a build for each class, I'm gonna speed through these as best I can for the sake of time. For Warlock then, you'll be using Stasis with the usual setup: Healing Rift, Duskfield, Ice Flare Bolts, Frost Pulse, Hedrons, Fissures, Durance, Refractions. Your exotic will be Sanguine Alchemy. Kills while standing in anybody's rift will give you blood magic for 5 seconds on the first kill, increasing the timer by 3 seconds for subsequent kills. While you have blood magic, the timer for any rift you're standing in will pause, and when I say any, I mean anybody's rift, including, say, an ally's rift with Lunafaction boots. It doesn't work with well, though. That would be busted. Focus on recovery, discipline, and strength, I guess. Armor and combat mods will be 99% the same for each build, consisting of double submachine scavengers in your helmet, anti-barrier SMG and SMG loader in your gloves, a melee resist and concussive dampener in your chest, double submachine scavenger in your boots, and thermal overload and surge eater in your class item. For combat mods, use 2 copies of firepower to regen 2/5 of your grenade when you throw it in exchange for 1 stack of charge with light. Use Swift Charge and Shield Break Charge to gain charge with light on SMG multi-kills and breaking an opponent's shield with the matching element. And use Protective Light to consume all stacks of charge with light when you get to low health in exchange for increased damage protection. This build specifically is best for any activity where you have to hold one position for a while. Think the part of Exodus Crash where you're defending against all the explosive shanks, or more recently the boss fights in Harbinger. If you want a more mobile build, switch your mods out to these, use Devour instead of Stasis, and run Verity's Brow for the grenade buffs instead. You'll be using the Warlock build for defensive situations by placing your Rift in a good spot, freezing an enemy for the Hedron's buff, and just kinda slaying it with Tarrabah until you need to move forwards. If you're running the more mobile build, I mean, it's Devour. Eat your grenade and shoot enemies. As is the usual, I've got a link in the description and card in the top right for uncut footage for Sanguine Alchemy. As for Verity's Brow, it's Devour. It just works. Moving on to the Titan build, your subclass will be Bottom Tree Solar for sunspots, running thermite grenades. Your exotic will be Icefall Mantle. If you want a full cover of how the exotic works, check out the card at the top right. To put it shortly, your barricade turns into a personal overshield that slows you while active. For this build, focus on resilience, recovery, and discipline. Armor mods are exactly the same as Warlock, I'll just copy those onto here. Pause if you need to check again to see what's what. Combat mods are also the same as the Sanguine Alchemy setup for them. Again, I'll just copy-paste them here for reference. Can you guess where a link and card for a video of the uncut footage for this build is? 'Cause I can. Again, I've already covered how to use Icefall Mantle before, and this doesn't change it much, but in essence you'll be popping Icefall Mantle and Ravenous Beast at the same time, and pretty much just walking around a corner with double health and a handheld minigun. Man, these builds are just flying on by. Yeah, how do people make like 10-minute ads out of like one gun? We may never know. Oh, it's coming back on. For hunters, run Bottom Tree Solar with swarm grenades. Your exotic will be, well, I was originally going to say Athreus' Embrace, but to make full use of that exotic takes switching to a 1-2 punch shotgun, and as I've stated before, switching weapons while you have Ravenous Beast up is a big no-no. So I ended up deciding to just slap Celestial Nighthawk on the build and call it a day. What does Nighthawk do? It makes your golden gun do this. For stats, focus on recovery, intellect, and discipline. Will the armor mods be exactly the same? Cast your votes now. Yeah, they're the same. Combat mods are the same as the Verity's Brow build, changing out the firepower copies for high energy fire and stacks on stacks. As is always the case, you can look to the card in the top right and the link in the description to see the build in action. For this one, there's no fancy ability combos or specific playstyles you need to adopt, just use Tarrabah as you normally would and pop Nighthawk for any champions or bosses you feel need it. It's worth noting though that this is by far the squishiest build presented here, lacking any way to rapidly regen health like the Warlock builds, or a way to apply an overshield like the Titan build. Be careful, all you have is your recovery stat. Anything else? Did I mention not to swap weapons if you have Ravenous Beast charged? Because you shouldn't do that. Going all the way back to the subject of the cost of buying Tarrabah from the Exotic Archive, 240 Spoils of Conquest is quite a lot, not to mention the other materials required. If you already have Anarchy and don't care too much about farming drops from Deepstone Crypt, I think it's worth it. If you already have Tarrabah in your collections, just take my word on it and give it a good, honest try for some lost sectors. On the topic of spoils, maybe I should make a video about the best way to farm Spoils of Conquest. Who knows? For now though, if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like on the video and slap the subscribe button. I'm Scooby Foo, and I will see you all in the next one. God, that ad lasted forever. You want to get some coffee or something? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. How?